Let me tell you something, brother. I don't know where to go with that one. Okay, so today we're talking about something that is a huge part of who I am, and that's pro wrestling, and obviously pro wrestling figures. Now, this might seem odd to you, but I don't actually have that many wrestling figures in my collection. In fact, these are the only two. Now, that's not to say I didn't collect wrestling figures when I was a kid, because I did, I very much did, but I was very late to the dance, so I'm going to kind of give you the history here of me with wrestling figures. So the first one I ever bought was this, which was Hulk Hogan, created by the wonderful people at Toy Biz. Toy Biz was so good with artwork. I just love the artwork on these boxes, and yeah, this was the first figure I bought. Now, that isn't to say that I wasn't watching wrestling before then. I was watching wrestling pretty much as early as I can remember. I was always watching wrestling. These figures weren't released till like 1999, so you might be asking yourself, well, why did it take you so long to get action figures for pro wrestling? The answer to that is, I never watched wrestling as something like I did Power Rangers or Batman or X-Men or Spider-Man, anything like that. I didn't think there would be action figures for it. To me, it was a cool sport with these awesome characters, and I guess my parents just did a very good job of kind of hiding these toys from me in Toys R Us and distracting me with other stuff. It wasn't until I was about 8, there's a store in the UK called Argos, and I remember an advert and they showed that particular figure, and I was like, what? There's wrestling figures? And that was it, the bubble burst, and that was everything changed. I ended up getting the Nitro playset arena, and I was a huge WCW fan. I was a huge WWF fan as well, but in particular I loved the WCW action figures. Again, maybe it was because it was by Toy Biz, and I thought Toy Biz did some great action figures, but I was such a huge fan of these, and yeah, wrestling just pretty much consumed my life, and I had a huge collection of wrestling figures. As I got older, I started to sell these off, particularly when I got into professional wrestling and started making this my career. I guess to me, I just wanted that distance. Like, to me, this toy room is an escape from that sometimes. Sometimes the job can be quite stressful. I like having something outside of it. This is my hobby away from wrestling. But I had to have this one because it was the first wrestling figure I ever got. I was wrestling at a show in Florida, in Tampa, Florida in 2017, and this was actually on the merch table. I asked to purchase it, and they was just kind enough to give me it, so big thank you to WWN for that. And then there's this one. Now, Sting is, in my opinion, the best babyface in pro wrestling history, and one of my favourite matches of all time is him against Ric Flair from the Great American Bash, when Sting won the World Heavyweight Championship, and yeah, it just propelled his career. It propelled the 90s, really. Matt Myers, big shout out, got me this one Christmas because he knew how much that match meant to me, and in particular how much I loved that look of Sting being one of my favourite wrestlers. So that was kind of cool, but that's the reason why I don't have that many toys. Now, obviously, wrestling figures are huge. WCW, for example, was originally with Galoob, and they had the small version of figures. WWF had the little Hasbro figures, which a lot of people will remember. Yeah, I even had some of those little Hasbro figures when I started collecting wrestling figures and playing with them when I was younger. WWF, as it was back then, eventually went to Jakks Pacific, and then from Jakks Pacific to Mattel, I believe, produce the figures these days. I remember the Jakks Pacific figures quite well. They was the ones that I used to play with quite a lot as a kid. And obviously Toy Biz had WCW, and then WCW would eventually get bought out by the WWF, and so we was just left with WWF action figures. And I had a huge collection of them, but yeah, I never really wanted to collect them when I started toy collecting. I soon sold all my wrestling figures in my teen years, and yeah, these are the only two that I have, and most likely will ever have, to be honest with you. I had contemplated, there's one or two friends that I've seen get toys produced, and I was like, it'd be cool to have them in the collection, but then again, it's not a big part of me. If I get the choice of getting a retro 90s Batman toy or X-Men toy, or a modern day WWE Mattel action figure, I'm always going to choose the retro 90s figure. That's pretty much it for me on the wrestling figures side, and that's the explanation as to why I don't have that many wrestling action figures, and probably will never have that many wrestling action figures. But yeah, these particular two kind of mean something to me. My best friend got me it for one of my favourite matches, and this, I mean, like I say, it's my first ever wrestling figure. It means something to me. The artwork is pretty cool. I was a big WCW fan. It's by Toy Biz, my favourite toy company, so yeah, I kind of had to have this in the collection just for the nostalgia purpose, but that was pretty much it. What you gonna do, brother, when Toy Biz runs wild on you? I guess that's it. Let's give away this. This is a Mighty Battlers Thor from Hasbro, which was released shortly after the first Avengers film.